The engine's in the car. Now we have to make it work. So we got to do all the wiring still. That shouldn't be too difficult. We're going to have to do a few modifications to make the intercooler and the radiator fit. We've got to make sure everything's tight. And then hopefully we'll be ready to start the car.
We'll make it tight.
Tight, you know, like fits well. Let's do it. All these wires. Yep, we gotta hook them up. We gotta plug things in. So we're working through all the wiring here, and one thing we have to plug in is the crank position sensor, which is this right here. It goes on the back of the block near the transmission. It's what we cut the hole out of the transmission for. And one of the common failure points on these is that this insulation will biodegrade and flake away, and these wires will eventually become exposed, and that can lead to a failure in your ignition system. So this one still looks okay. The insulation is not in good shape, but we're just going to put purple electrical tape over it and it should be fine, but this is definitely a common failure point. So we've got all the sensors and everything plugged in now. We're gonna wait until we start this thing and make sure we don't have any electrical problems before we loom it all up. We're mocking up the intercooler here. We're gonna have to relocate the battery so that this intercooler hose that goes to the intake is gonna have room here. Right now the battery mount's in the way, so we are gonna have to cut that out.
So now we gotta drill a hole in the firewall for a clutch cable. We got this massive step bit here, got it from work. It's pretty impressive. And I don't know exactly which diameter we need, so we'll start it out and then figure out which diameter we need. But it'll do pretty much whatever you want. Look at that, it's like an inch, the whole inch of hole.
So to fit the radiator and the intercooler in here and secure them, we have a few different brackets that we're using. We're using the stock brackets that are used to secure the radiator that came in the car. We put those down here. That's what these are here for the radiator and the intercooler to both rest on. And then we bent up these brackets that were on a 940 turbo. We bent those up, and then we're gonna drill a hole right here and secure these in here with sheet metal screws so that the radiator and intercooler don't move around, and then they'll be really tight. We're putting a different style cooling tank on here, and so we have to weld in the new bracket, so we're gonna put it right here. We're gonna clean up this metal first. So one thing we did for the turbo oil supply is we changed our setup here. We used to have it so that the nycop was gonna come straight out, but we didn't like that, and that wasn't gonna work, obviously. Before we put the engine in the car, we decided to go with this setup where we have a 90-degree bend here for the turbo oil supply, and that's gonna work out a lot better. We changed out the fuel and ignition computers really quick. One of them lives right here, that's for the fuel, and the ignition computer lives up here, and it's just a few bolts or a bracket that holds them in. That's all you got to do. So everything's hooked up now. Everything's plumbed in, plugged in. All the hose clamps are tight, we think. We didn't film a whole lot of this wiring and the plumbing because it's kind of boring to watch. But we've got our intercooler and radiator mounted. We did have to relocate the battery, so the battery is going to be in the trunk here. Obviously it's not going to sit like that. This is just for purposes of starting it. But we have our ground cable there. We're probably going to have to end up putting that in a different spot because that's not a great spot. And then we ran 2-gauge wire along with this stock wiring. You can see the wire there under all the carpet and up through the firewall. Just following the stock wiring, and it comes out of the firewall through there. And then we made this junction block out of this fuse holder. What is this, a mega fuse holder or a midi fuse holder?
I think it's a mega or AMM.
Yeah, so this might be a mega fuse holder that we had, and we essentially just ran all of our wires to that. This is the wire from the battery, and then the wire that goes to the junction block for all the accessories and the ignition, etc. The wire for the starter, the wire for the alternator. That's all right there. What else have we done? We put water in it, oil, put oil in the transmission. What else did we do? Oh, we changed out the computers. We filmed that. We filmed out how we changed out the computers under here. That's really easy. What else have we done? Have we done anything else to note? So that's pretty much it. Just all these little odds and ends here, which...
Got the clutch hooked up.
Yeah, we got the clutch hooked up. All these little odds and ends here that take up so much of your time. That's kind of what we've been spending the day on. And now we think we're ready to start it, so we are going to unplug the coil and crank it over a few times. Well, hopefully we're going to crank it over a few times if it cranks.
Better.
And to build up some oil pressure, and then we're going to start it, hopefully, if it starts.
We'll start. Remember to jumper the anti-starting.
Yeah, we did. Okay. Yeah, we did that. Alright, its coil's unplugged.
Crank it?
Yeah, crank it.
Watch this in here. Clunk. Will the headlights work? Oh no. It doesn't crank.
Hang on.
Are we grounded good enough?
I smell fuel. Yeah, we got a fuel leak. So when we first tried to crank it, we realized the fuel rail was leaking from the cold start injector. So we replaced this fuel rail with another one that doesn't have that. And we found out the starter wasn't plugged in, so that's why it wasn't cranking. So we replaced the fuel rail, plugged in the starter. Let's see how we do this time. We're not spitting fuel or anything.
That's good.
Alright, hang on. Alright, be back there in case there's a fire. Alright, let's do
So
it.
you want me to collect all the exhaust fumes?
Yeah, the exhaust is over there.
On the other side.
Okay, that's
All right, you ready for this? Is it gonna work?
So we got this thing started last night. Once we had everything hooked up, it started right up. We had a little bit of a leak on the fuel rail the second time as well. We had to retighten these hose clamps, and it was making a weird noise because the downpipe was kind of hitting the subframe down there. So we loosened the bolts here that hold on the downpipe and moved it around a little bit and retightened them. We may, when we build an exhaust, have to bash in the firewall a little bit. Not sure yet. We have a little bit of clearance now, but we'll figure that out when we build the exhaust. We've got to put the interior back together, and then we're going to take it for a test drive and make sure we've got everything mechanically sound. That turbo sounds great. Oops. Yeah.
Releases pretty hard for travel.
Does it?
But it feels alright.
Yes. Yes! That sounds good. Sounds cool.
Yeah, it does.
Except for that flange rattling around. That flange rattling around kind of makes it kind of weird, but we can just cut that off. And then
Smoke it a little bit.
it's probably just like some of the residual paint and stuff burning off. It's yeah, you can smell it. It's the paint burning off. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the paint burning off.
What kind of paint did you use?
Just enamel based. Just enamel based paint.
Sweet.
Are we bleeding anything? Doesn't look like it. Well, yeah, because we don't have that hooked up, so.
It actually doesn't feel too bad without power steering.
We're gonna have to do something about that, though.
What's wrong with the power steering?
There's no pump. We don't have a pump on it because we're running this timing cover. You see this part here on this timing cover?
Yep.
You can't put the belt from the power steering on this middle ring. So we're gonna have to make a plate and move the pump out a little bit and put the belt on this one.
And then you can add on to the stats, like, yeah, we got a custom power steering.
Custom power steering.
Pump mount. That's what everyone's looking for.
Well, that was encouraging. It runs, it didn't blow up.
Which is over.
It's not really leaking anything that we can tell.
Garage, if it's not leaking, if it didn't blow up.
Those are standards. It's not leaking, it didn't blow up. That's what I'm talking about. Sweet.
So we took the first test drive today, went really well. Gonna have to adjust the clutch. Other than that, drives pretty good.
We've still got the flange on the downpipe where it connects to the catalytic converter, the stock cat. That was banging around a lot. That was making a lot of noise, so we're gonna have to chop that off.
Other than that, it sounds pretty awesome. I kind of want a straight pipe on this.
It does sound really awesome.
Yeah. So other than that,
build an exhaust, clean up the wiring, adjust the clutch, fan, bunch of little stuff. And then in the future, we'll probably do some mods on the steering, the suspension, maybe upgrade the brakes, who knows. Little stuff like that. So we're still gonna be doing stuff on this, but the swap is a success.
Yeah,
the swap is a success. It runs. We worked out all the little problems that we had. We'll probably make a few more videos on it when we upgrade a few more things. We start messing around with it and stuff like that. But the swap is complete. We're happy with it.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. It was fun.
Yeah, about a little over a month.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
Month and a half.
On the weekends, just on the weekends. So
yeah.
So this was a pretty fun project. Pay attention. So this was a pretty fun project. We had some success with it. We're taking on something a little more challenging for our next project. We actually don't have it yet. We'll explain more later, but I don't know if, it's probably never been done in this combination. What we're gonna do next probably has never been done. This next project's gonna be a lot of work, but we're really looking forward to it. I'm pumped. I'm pumped to do this next project.
Next week we'll have a video up on it, right?
Yeah.
Next week.
Yep. As soon as we get all the material here, as soon as we get everything here, as soon as everything's delivered, we will have an intro to that. It's gonna be awesome. Stay tuned.